We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani.
And I'm Jeff.
And we are here to answer your questions. Today is Friday. It's relationship Q&A. It's Ask the Experts. So whatever your question is, whether you're single, dating, in a committed courtship, engaged, married, separated, divorced, going through trauma and pain, whatever your circumstances may be, we are here to pour out some wisdom, to give some advice, some know-how. So post your questions in the comments right now so that we can get engaged in a phenomenal conversation. Listen, guys, next weekend, last chance weekend, we have people who are registering, so we're excited about that. There's room for more. We want you to engage. Listen, why go into 2023 the same way that you struggled through 2022? You can have a different marriage. You can have a different life. All it takes is making a decision to turn things around. And we have created something that is unique and designed for transformation. So check out this quick commercial. Post your questions and we'll dive right in. That's right. That's the last chance weekend. That's the place where transformation takes place. Now, Jeff, listen, you and I have been doing this work for quite some time. There was a pivotal moment that things began to turn around in our lives. But I think what happens is people think that, I changed. That happened in 19 such and such and such and such, as opposed to realizing that change is an ongoing thing. There's a continual evolution of what you need to go through to continue to become the best version of yourself. It's not about an event. The event may be the beginning of the process, but change is a lifelong journey. You never reach your highest point until you're dead. You never reach your fullest potential until you're no longer breathing. And so talk to them about the importance of investing in your life, investing in your marriage to have something you've never had before.
So we all realize that it takes a lifetime to become an overnight success, right? People recognize a change, and the moment of their awareness, I want to use that word over and over and over again, the moment of their awareness happens in a dramatic fashion. But the moment of your awareness that you want to begin the process starts at the time that you make the decision to start working and do the work every day. And what happens is, like, when you're going through it, like, just like, when you're trying to lose weight, there's this thing called dysmorphia. You look in the mirror and you see a completely different version of you than what may actually be. You may consider yourself fatter than you are. You may consider yourself smaller than you are, but you're seeing it through your lens. And you don't really know the progress if you don't take that snapshot in the beginning and that snapshot at the end. If you don't recognize the clothes that you were wearing in the beginning, the clothes that you're wearing in the end. So if you don't keep those records, a journal or something to see how you've changed, you won't notice it. And in a relationship, it's even more so that way, because sometimes our spouses don't even recognize how much we've changed until it hits a particular event. There'll be one cataclysmic thing that makes you go, whoa, this is. So a lot of times you're looking for feedback from your spouse right away. I want it now. I need to know now. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? There's always that concern in every endeavor when you're learning anything new and beginning any new habit. You don't walk into the gym, look at the gym and say, now I'm a bodybuilder. You go and you do the weight. You are literally not faking it. You're in the process of making it. Right. So but there has to be an attitude of, this is the determination. I know where I'm at. I know where I want to go. And I know there's going to be a journey between this. And I don't exactly know when I'm going to arrive, but there has to be the determination and this solidification in your mind that this is the absolute, I have to have this. Right. And when that happens and you burn all ships back, like when I finally said, I will never use the word divorce in my house, I'm going to wake up at 95 years old with this woman. And I've got to figure it out between here and there. When I made that determination, that's when things really started to change. And then it was like, not overnight. Like what I noticed is we would fight, but we were fighting less. So sometimes we don't realize it was, a week has passed and we went without a fight. That's a celebration. We only recognize that one moment that we just fought again. Then it's a month, and then it's months, and then it's once every 6 months. And then it's like, but that knockdown drag out feels like you lost all your progress. The truth of the matter is we are looking for these aha moments to arrive to, and we are also looking for the distance from the cataclysmic events. And so
I think, yeah. So in essence, what he's talking about, it takes time. It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight, but slowly but surely things begin to progress and get better. And that's the commitment to this process. So it requires patience. It requires grace. It requires putting in the work. And when you do that, the more you sow, the more you reap. And all of a sudden, things will begin to change and transform in your life. We're going to go to these questions here, guys. There's a lot that just came through. We're going to start with Michelle. Michelle says, long distance relationship. We are both over 50. When is a good time to talk about moving to be together? We have been together for 6 months. Okay, so here's the reality. One of the things that, as a general rule and principle that I like to live by and I like to teach from is you should be together with someone for a solid year before considering marriage. Now, here's the situation. When you've reached a certain age, now she said that we're both over 50, and I know what that means because I've been in this space a long time. When you reach a certain age, you're like, you know what? I don't have a whole lot of time. I know what I want. You know what you want. You know what I'm saying? Why are we wasting all this time dating? Let's just move forward and get together. And what happens is, I get it because there's an internal clock that's within you and you're looking at time and all of those different things. But there should be a natural progression of things in a relationship. You've heard us talk about the 4 seasons of a successful relationship: the dating season, committed courtship, engagement, and marriage. Those are 4 different seasons, and the level of commitment and responsibility and so many other things go into each season. They're uniquely different. And to jump over a season could be problematic. Think about picking a fruit from a tree too soon. It's not ripe. You bite into it, it's bitter. If you pick it too late, well, now it's soft, it's rotten, it doesn't taste good. So there's timing to everything. And much as you have 4 seasons in a relationship, I think it would be healthy to go through 4 seasons of a year: summer, spring, winter, fall, before determining that this is the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. You want to see them in all seasons, in all circumstances, when they're up, when they're down. But the question is, when do we know when to transition into being closer together in physical proximity? Great question. What I have seen, people who have been in relationships, long distance relationships, bi-coastal, whatever the case may be, and then they decide to get married and they move together or move in close proximity weeks or maybe a month before marriage. Then they get married and then they're hit with the reality, I don't know you. We've been together for quite some time, but I didn't realize that you acted like that, talked like that. These were your idiosyncrasies. These were your habits because there was no physical proximity. And that is a major component and element of a relationship before you move in. So I would suggest maybe wait a little bit more to know, because if you're moving, you're changing your life, possibly your career, your whole everything. You want to make sure that this is the person you really want to be with. But once you do move closer, I still think you need a period of time before you get married, because you know them in a two-dimensional way, through the phone, through Zoom, occasional visitations, but you want to get in there for quite some time and spend time together and observe and engage and have that experience before getting married. Jeff, what do you say?
I say I agree with all of that. There's only one dimension I want to add to it.
Okay.
What is your, because I'm going to tell you, I married my wife after 5 months. We didn't even speak the same language. But, and there was trials. Because of that, there were trials. But the truth of the matter is, what is your level of commitment to making things work? That was the game changer. Because by anyone looking and observing on the outside, my parents, everyone thought we were going to be doomed for divorce. My wife thought we were doomed for divorce. I had to have a level of commitment that said I was going to do whatever it takes to make it work. Now, that doesn't mean be abused. It doesn't mean be mistreated. But a lot of the things that we don't like are nuances in a relationship that could possibly be corrected if we could come to an agreement. And I don't like the way he brushes his teeth, and I don't like the way he talks to me. And like, they're little things. And what we really don't have is emotional control to be able to be off the chessboard and figure things out. So what is your level of commitment to a relationship? It's not just this ideal of a relationship that we're dreaming about, because we all walk in with this vision of what it's supposed to be. What if it got nasty? What if it got ugly for a little while?
Yep.
What is the level of commitment and willing to stick in there and work through the details and make it work?
That's a very good question. And so that's something that you do have to talk about and evaluate to make sure that you're on the same page. All right, we got a lot of questions here. We're going to dive right in. Here we go. The next question is this from Sean: trying to work on marriage, but work out of state for 6 weeks at a time. Need help. What to do? So I don't understand if you're saying you're trying to work on getting married, or if you're married, but you live out of state, and how do we do it? Well, one thing I will say is that, we do virtual sessions. Couples Academy works with clients all over the world. And interestingly enough, in many cases, you have spouses who live in different countries. You have spouses who are on assignment. And so one may be in the field somewhere, the other one's back at home. And so you may be in different time zones and things of that nature. But there's a way to link up. Even when we encourage couples to do work day and play day, you can do it virtually. Like, you don't have to be in the same physical space to dedicate time to talk on the phone or Zoom to work on issues within the relationship. But my question would be, 6 weeks at a time, how long have you been in this role, on this job? Because that can take a toll. One of the things that most couples struggle with is the lack of time in their relationship. And we're doing life separately, and you got your thing and I got my thing, and it creates not only a physical separation, but over the course of time, it can lead to an emotional disconnect as well. So if there's any way to evaluate what work like can be like, but in the meantime, be intentional in connecting with your spouse, I think would be critically important for your success. Daryl, I want you to take the next question, Jeff. This is from Daryl. Should you tell your spouse that you've changed, or should you just let her see the change, or a combination of the two? Great question.
I would first do a self-evaluation to see the results of your change, to make sure that you've actually changed. Because a lot of times we tell ourselves, I've done this. And then you step on the scale and we see that it's different weight. I would look for signals that they've noticed anything changed. and try to get some feedback. But I would do a combination of both. I think it's important to say that you've changed, but I think it's important to do that at the right time. So I would do that after a win. I wouldn't do that during an argument. See, baby, I changed. You know, when you get that smile on their face, that's a good point to say after a win, then let them know and affirm and get their feedback. Because a lot of times you're going to get, well, how long will that last? And that's the other side of that coin. How long will that last? Because that's a lot of what they're waiting for. Is like, okay, yeah, he's changed for a little while, but he's worried about me leaving, right? So I think it's good to remind them that, hey, look, see, baby, I've changed. But after you've actually demonstrated it, just acknowledging it out of your own mouth so that you can get feedback from that would be good. But also be ready for the criticism, because if you're not ready for the criticism, you don't want to put that out there as something done.
I think that question is so interconnected to this next question, which comes from Crazy Voice 12. Hello, how do you get past viewing your spouse in a negative light after infidelity, especially when there are triggers? Is it normal to have that struggle, though it happened 2 years ago? So, you know, it's interesting. There's a couple who I'm doing a private marriage intensive with actually right now. As soon as we end the show, I'm back over there. And one of the things that I told them yesterday is that the two things that take the longest to recover from after infidelity are trust and triggers. Because trust is gained or regained over a period of time. Triggers, to your point, Jeff, you were just talking about how you would fight with your spouse, and maybe it happened every day, and then it's once a week, and then once a month, and then once a year. Triggers work the same way. It's the same thing. Those are the two things. And so what happens is your trust issues and your triggers are based upon what happened in the past. And so when you look at your spouse, you're looking at them through the lenses of their past. You are haunted by the ghosts of your relational past. And so oftentimes, like Daryl's point, there have been changes that have been made, but you don't see me for who I am. You only see me for who I was. And we rob ourselves of our present moment because we're trapped in the past. And we're also anticipating a negative future outcome based upon the past, and we're not fully present. We're bringing intention into our marriage instead of paying full attention to what's currently happening. So it's a decision you have to make. Affirmations that you have to engage in, retraining the brain, constantly having conversations with your spouse about what's currently being done, reminding yourself about the changed relationship if it has been changed. It's work on both sides. But when you do that work, all of a sudden you begin to feel different, think different, respond different, and operate different in your relationship.
Moving past triggers is difficult, but I will tell you this: you've got to move. And what I see a lot of is people wanting to stick and sit in their triggers. They use it as a mechanism for control because they feel safer in their fear that something could happen than their willingness to begin to trust again. You have to understand that trust isn't just something you're giving someone else. That trust is an allowance for you to live again. And some of that has to be like, I'm going to live again, and I want to be in a happy relationship again, and I'm going to force myself into a situation where I'm going to trust again because they've given me the proper signals. And that means I have to stand on the edge of the cliff, be a little scared, and move forward anyway. And the reason why I say this is like your fear of moving forward will keep you from moving forward. Like, it's that simple. Your fear of moving forward. See, you've already made the decision to stay. But what you've done is kept one foot anchored in the muck, saying, I'm going to keep this one foot in the filth of the past, and I'm going to put one foot in the possibility of the future. So I'm staying. And that's indecisiveness. And if you look at what the Bible says about indecisiveness, you'll be either hot or cold, or I will spit lukewarm and I'll spit you out of my mouth. You have to make a decision to get back in. Now, I understand certain trauma has to happen. I deal with guys with PTSD that have been through some of the most horrific things that you've ever seen in your entire life from war. Some things that, like, I don't even want to discuss on here. But one thing that happens that I notice is most people who are downrange in the war don't have PTSD. It's when they actually come out of the war and they're back home trying to adjust to normal life. from the trauma.
Yeah.
That's when PTSD occurs. Okay, it's when they're actually in a safe space. That's when all the problems start showing up. If you've gone through post-infidelity disorder, like similar to post-traumatic disorder, a lot of times you're going to be the most reactive in your environment to triggers when you're not on a mission. And
right.
So you set a mission in your mind that this is what my marriage is going to look like. That doesn't mean you're not going to add in defensiveness and set boundaries, and we're not going to just blindly trust. We're going to create stages of, okay, we're going to do this next, we're going to do this next in your mind, and move towards those goals actively.
Excellent answer. All right, we got a lot of questions. Sherry says, my husband has totally transformed after the confession about the affair, but how do I get past the lies to me? How much of the affair should he disclose? Really quickly, full disclosure is one of the most important steps. It's actually the first step in the recovery process, because most people are trapped in the discovery phase. So we want to take you into full disclosure, where we unpack all the details of the affair. Now, I will say this. For some people, knowing everything can actually help. For others, it can hurt, harm, or hinder. Some people have a need to know, but it actually makes their situation worse. So on a high level, yes, we should be able to go through everything. But the question is, how detailed and how specific do you want to get about particular things that may not serve you? But if there are lies that are still out there, untruths that have been held on to, that's one of the things that contributes to the distrust and the ongoing triggers. So yes, I've changed, but you're still holding secrets and holding on to things, which impacts the ability to be intimate, like intimacy. Like, can we truly have real conversations, authentic conversations where we unpack everything if I'm still trying to cover up things from the past? So maybe it requires a deeper dive, but ultimately it should help to thrust you forward in your overall recovery process. I'm going to go to Camille. Camille says, this is a big one. I saw the affair partner for the first time since D-Day. I approached her. I told her how I felt, all of it. I felt some closure after my husband was upset with me for approaching. Well, listen, if that brought you closure, if that allowed you to close certain loops, if you're able to now move forward as a result of having that conversation, kudos. I mean, I don't know if you just randomly saw her, if you sought her out, what the circumstances were. I hope it wasn't confrontational. I hope that you were able to have an adult civil conversation to release some things, and some people need that release. Now, the question is, are you ready to now move forward in your marriage now that that has happened? We've seen this conversation between affair partner, the spouse and the affair partner, go very well in many cases. So hopefully that's your case. We've also seen it turn into a disaster.
Absolutely. And it's really about who you are internally. You're gonna get reflected back typically who you are. So, and your husband being upset, that's normal, but it shouldn't be, right? So, like, honestly, there's some fear that comes with that, of what could actually happen and why did you do that? And truth of the matter is, a victim should be able to talk to the person who perpetrated. And that's both of the people that perpetrated, the husband and the affair partner. If you are disciplined, mature enough, et cetera, to be able to have that conversation.
Absolutely. LaShawn has a question. She says, or a statement, my husband labeled me a liar, which he is right. I don't tell him the truth about things because of his consequences are brutal. He is a verbal assassin, which hurts me mentally. Physical scars will pass, but mental abuse lingers. I've told him my deepest secrets, and he used them against me. So I'm a liar because he's not safe to open up to. Speak on that, Jeff.
Probably both true. So he has worked it. So you have to understand that if he is a verbal assassin, it's because of something that he doesn't know how to make happen in his own world with you, probably, and probably with a bunch of other things. So there's an incompleteness inside of him that causes him to lash out. And that makes him feel more powerful in ways that gives him control, or at least a perceived sense of control over things. So he has work to do. Also, you lying is not going to help you in any way. I think you probably both need some kind of counseling. Last Chance Weekend is a great place for that, by the way.
Last question, Ben Scott. Good morning, Ben. Ben is a regular. He says, good morning from Tennessee. I'm an unfaithful 7 months of no contact. How do I get past the grief? it's caused a mild depression. Jeff, weigh in.
So this is where we have to begin working on us, because what we're talking about is guilt. So you're the person who was unfaithful and you've had 7 months of no contact with that person. And what you're probably feeling is some sadness, some loneliness, some depression, some guilt, some remorse. If we sit in that too long, we're going to do some pretty bad behaviors. It typically happens that there's this whole thing that we do in Foundry where we talk about conscious competence and different things like that. But I'm not going to get too deep into that. It takes too long. But what typically, when we realize that we've done a bad boo-boo, or we don't know the answers to something, or we can't figure something out, we become frustrated. That frustration leads to sadness, sometimes leads to guilt, sometimes leads to remorse, sometimes leads to anger. All those negative emotions happen when the world is not happening the way we want it to. And what that means is we either have to stop setting an expectation that the world is going to happen our way all the time, or we're going to have to learn some tools to help us work within that world to help us get what we want. And that's what Foundry is about. We start working on those tools in the spiritual quadrant that gives you a sense of self, that knows, so you know who you are a little better. That helps you work in the emotional quadrant, so you know how to communicate with others so that it doesn't affect that sense of self and also doesn't cause any harm to them. That you learn how to do some things physically that can actually change the chemical makeup of your brain by doing physical activity. And then also in the finance realm, sometimes those things play into, when I let's say finance, I'm talking about being able to create the environment of our choosing. So those four things, if you have those four securities in stable in your life, if you're at a high number, if you're 1 to 10, say 8 or above, 7 or above, in all four of those areas, what happens is you end up generating an environment of health and stability and less pain, remorse, sadness, and guilt.
I'm so glad that you're one of our practitioners, because you provide so much in-depth insight and perspective that's uniquely different than what's typical and common. So thank you, Jeff. Thank you all for tuning in today. You've been watching Ask the Experts. There's a lot of questions here. We can't address them all because we only have 30 minutes. But listen, we encourage you to reach out to us, set up a discovery call. Let's see how we can help you. But until then, have an amazing, amazing, amazing weekend. There's a lot to celebrate. There's a lot to do. Enjoy it. We'll see you Monday for another great episode of the Couples Academy Show. Take care.